Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. We're looking into those stories that, well, they don't just echo through time, do they? They really shape our ideas about choice, consequence, connection, all the big things.
Absolutely. And today's story is particularly foundational. It goes right back to the beginning.
Right to the dawn. We're journeying back to that pivotal moment in the Garden of Eden.
It's a narrative that, despite being ancient, feels startlingly relevant. It really gets into the core of human nature, our vulnerabilities, and, well, the nature of the divine itself.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack the temptation and the fall. We'll be using, of course, the Genesis 3 account.
The primary source, yeah.
But we're also leaning quite heavily, actually, on Ellen G. White's commentary in Patriarchs and Prophets.
Which offers some really illuminating perspectives and details.
It does. These texts, they're not just history lessons. They offer specific details, broader applications, things that honestly hit home today. They kind of give us a map for understanding our own stuff.
And as we go through it, we're going to zero in on three key things. First, the maybe overlooked dangers of disobedience. Real dangers.
Okay.
Second, the unavoidable importance of personal accountability. Taking ownership of choices.
Always crucial.
And third, maybe the most surprising part, the incredible persistence of God's grace. Even right there, in the middle of catastrophic failure.
Grace amidst the ruin.
Exactly. So it's more than just retelling a story. It's digging for the wisdom layered within it.
I'm really looking forward to this. It's a story that I think reveals so much about us humans, our potential for good, our capacity for, well, messing up, and also the character of God, his patience.
Immense patience.
So yeah, settle in. We're about to explore Eden's lost harmony and hopefully some vital lessons it still holds for us. Okay, let's start by setting the scene. Try to really picture Eden. The sources describe it as pristine.
Perfect.
More than just beautiful. It's called a new territory for humanity, completely free from any miasma of misery. Miasma of misery. Can you even imagine that? A world without suffering, where everything was just joy, pure air, beautiful sights.
A sanctuary, designed for flourishing.
And at the center of it all, Adam and Eve, described as the perfect couple.
The crowning work of creation. And their status? It's unique. Remember Genesis 1.26, let us make man in our image after our likeness.
In God's image is huge.
It's not just physical. It implies intellect, a moral compass, relationship, creativity. They were already like God in their original state.
Wow.
And their relationship with God, it was direct, intimate, unfiltered. They walked with him, talked with him, perfect communion.
So in this perfect place, with this perfect relationship, God gives them a law. Now, we often think of laws as, restrictive, holding us back.
Right, that's the common view.
But the sources really emphasize this. God's law was there to protect the couple, not to limit them. Can you unpack that a bit, that distinction?
Yeah, it's a really crucial theological point. It challenges how we usually see rules. Think about a loving parent putting a fence near a cliff where their child plays.
Okay.
The fence isn't to stop the fun inside the safe area. It's to prevent a disaster, right?
Yeah.
To protect from a danger the child might not even see.
So the command, even the one about the tree.
Exactly. Even don't eat from that tree was fundamentally an act of love, designed for their protection, their continued life. It wasn't arbitrary. It was about safeguarding them from real consequences, suffering, death.
That completely reframes it, doesn't it? Disobedience wasn't just rule breaking, it was rejecting God's care.
Precisely. And the stakes were made crystal clear.
Yeah.
No ambiguity.
It was stark, really. Obey and live, disobey and die. The sources insist God wouldn't just wave away the consequences.
No exceptions. It set a precedent. Choices have weight. Divine law has real results, just like rebellion did in heaven before them.
Which brings up a point. What did they actually know about the danger? Were they naive?
Not in the sense of being uninformed, no. The sources say angels had actually given them the backstory.
The backstory.
Yeah, about Satan's rebellion in heaven. They warned them about his tactics, his desire to disrupt God's kingdom, to pull creation down with him.
So they knew who they were dealing with. They weren't walking into this blind.
They had a clear warning. The angels told them basically, as long as you stay obedient, Satan can't touch you. He can't force you.
Okay, so obedience was their shield.
It was their security. But, and this is the key, if they yielded to his insinuations, if they listened to his suggestions,
They'd give up that security.
they'd lose the safety of the garden. And the potential outcome was horrifying. They could become so depraved that they would have no power to resist Satan.
Wow, from perfect to powerless. That's a terrifying fall. They knew the weight of it.
They did. And it all hinged on this single, incredibly simple restriction: not to eat from or touch the tree of knowledge.
Just one thing, not a complicated legal code.
One focused test of trust. And significantly, the sources say this tree was also the only place that Satan could tempt them.
The only weak point in the whole setup.
It seems so. The instruction was clear. Avoid it. Stay away. Be content with the counsel that God had given.
That simplicity.
Yeah.
It makes the eventual choice seem even more profound, doesn't it? It wasn't about complex theology.
It was about basic trust, simple obedience to their Creator. Their entire existence, their happiness, rested on respecting that one boundary.
So we have this perfect setting, perfect couple, clear rules, stark warnings. They know the stakes. But then the serpent arrives.
And this is where Satan's strategy is just masterful deception.
The disguise itself is fascinating. The sources describe the serpent not as, a scary snake, but as a most alluring creature.
Right. Having wings even, with a dazzling brightness like burnished gold. It shimmered.
Not exactly threatening. Was that intentional, the beauty?
Absolutely. Part of his subtle approach. He didn't appear as an obvious enemy. He came as something beautiful, captivating, maybe even wise-seeming.
To disarm them.
Exactly. Make the forbidden look attractive, the dangerous seem harmless. It's a classic move. Makes sin look good.
And his opening line. So clever. We still see this tactic. He began with inquiries about what God actually said. Yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden.
It sounds so innocent, doesn't it? Just asking.
Yeah, just checking the facts, but it's loaded.
It's a seed of doubt. Right away, subtly questioning God's goodness, his authority. Is he holding back? Is he being unreasonable?
And the crucial mistake, according to the sources, is that Eve engages. She enters into a dialogue with the serpent.
And the commentary is blunt. This is always unhealthy. There should be no discussion with Satan, just rebukes.
Don't even entertain the argument.
Because it's the same tactic he used in heaven. Undermining credibility with seemingly reasonable questions. He chips away at trust before making the direct attack. Engaging gives doubt power.
And Eve, she became vulnerable. The sources mention she unconsciously wandered away from Adam.
Physically separating herself from her partner, her safeguard.
And even though she had a sense of the danger, that little warning bell inside.
She dismissed her fears, rationalized it away maybe, thought she could handle it.
And her response to his question, it kind of set the trap, didn't it? She actually repeated God's command about the tree, including the warning, lest ye die.
It's like she handed him the script for his next line. She laid out the boundary he was about to attack.
Exactly. And Satan, seeing his opening, doesn't hold back. He goes straight for the direct contradiction. Ye shall not surely die.
A complete, bold lie. A total denial of God's word.
But he doesn't just stop at the denial. He adds the lure, the most attractive prospect. Your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
So clever, twisting the truth, implying God is the one being selfish, holding back this amazing knowledge, this power, appealing to ambition, to curiosity.
And he even used himself as proof, didn't he? Like, look at me, I ate it, I'm fine. In fact, I'm wise, I can talk.
Essentially, yes. Presenting himself as living evidence that disobeying God's command would not cause death. It's a powerful trick, using immediate appearances to override a future promised consequence. What you see versus what God said.
The real goal, though, was deeper than just getting her to eat the fruit.
Oh, much deeper. White says he aimed to make her distrust God's love and to doubt his wisdom, to create an unholy curiosity about God's authority and omniscience.
It was about breaking the relationship.
Fundamentally, destroying the trust, making God seem like the enemy and Satan the enlightener.
So how does this ancient tactic play out today? Do we still fall for this?
Constantly. The sources draw out a direct line. Satan still tempts men to disobedience by leading them to believe they're entering a wonderful field of knowledge, but this is all a deception.
We see people elated with ideas of progression, thinking they're advancing by pushing boundaries, challenging God's standards.
Yeah, feeling enlightened or liberated. But in doing so, they're trampling on God's requirements, setting their feet in the path that leads to degradation and death. It's the same trajectory.
Satan's claim that breaking God's law is beneficial. You hear echoes of that today, people saying God's law is narrow or outdated.
Exactly. Promoting a false freedom, suggesting growth comes from ignoring divine limits. It sounds appealing, but it leads away from life.
And the warning gets sharper. The transgressor seeks to disguise his true character. He may claim to be holy, but his exalted profession only makes him the more dangerous as a deceiver.
He pulls others down with him. It's a ripple effect of rebellion.
Which brings us back to Eve's decision. Her error. White's point here is stark.
He really is. Eve really believed the words of Satan, but her belief did not save her from the penalty of sin. She disbelieved the words of God, and this was what led to her fall.
Wow. So being sincere and believing a lie doesn't make it true or negate the consequences.
Not at all. Sincerity isn't a substitute for truth. And this hits us too, doesn't it? Neglecting opportunities or the pursuit of truth will set us up for similar deceptions.
We have a responsibility to seek truth.
We do. We'll be held accountable for not pursuing it. And the test remains pretty straightforward. Whatever contradicts God's word, we may be sure proceeds from Satan. It's a clear filter.
Okay, so back to the moment. Satan actually placed the fruit in Eve's hand.
Yes, undermining the "don't even touch it" part of the warning. She held it. It looked good, felt real. She was still alive.
The sense is taking over.
Completely. She saw that the tree was good for food, pleasant to the eyes, desired to make one wise, taste, sight, ambition, all triggered.
And then she ate.
She took of the fruit thereof and did eat. And White mentions this immediate, strange, unnatural excitement, a fleeting false high.
And then the tragedy compounds. She doesn't keep it to herself.
No. In her altered state, she now took it upon herself to share it with her husband, Adam. She becomes a tempter.
But Adam's choice, it was different, wasn't it? He wasn't deceived in the same way.
No, the sources suggest he saw what happened. He was disappointed but curious. Eve seemed okay. She repeated Satan's lines.
But he knew. He recognizes that Eve has sinned. He started thinking about the implications.
It wasn't impulsive for him, not like Eve's decision, perhaps. He waited. And his reason, it's heartbreaking, really.
What was it?
He could not imagine not being without his partner. He thought, maybe the serpent is right. And so he decided to eat the fruit with her.
Out of love for her, or fear of losing her.
Maybe a mix. But it highlights his personal accountability. Eve influenced him, yes, but the choice was ultimately his, a deliberate choice to prioritize her, their bond, over God's direct command.
A conscious act of disobedience.
Wow,
Ew.
tragic, choosing human connection over divine connection.
So the choices are made. One swayed by deception, the other by, well, a kind of misguided loyalty. What happens next? The immediate fallout.
It's instant and internal. No elevated feeling, no godlike wisdom. Instead, just this overwhelming, unexplainable guilt and dread.
The promise was empty.
Completely. The illusion shattered, replaced by this crushing spiritual weight.
And there was a visible change, too, right? The robe of light.
Yes, that symbolic covering, the robe of light that God had covered them with, was removed.
Yeah.
This wasn't just about clothes. It was their innocence, their purity, God's protection.
Gone, leaving them feeling naked. Exposed.
Exactly. Physically and spiritually bare. And their first reaction, they tried to fix it themselves. They found their own clothing fig leaves to be prepared to stand before God.
A futile effort, trying to cover spiritual shame with leaves.
It shows the total inadequacy of human solutions for sin.
Meanwhile, Satan must have been elated.
The sources say extreme happiness. She'd done it. He'd dragged humanity down. His rebellion now had human allies.
And Adam and Eve's whole demeanor changed. They used to enjoy God's presence, right? Walk with him.
Yeah, in the cool of the day, it was fellowship. Now, they're hiding. Fear replaced intimacy. Shame replaced joy.
And then God calls out, "Where art thou?"
It's such a poignant question. Not because God didn't know their location, obviously.
Right, he's omniscient.
It was a call back to relationship, an invitation to come clean, to be honest.
But Adam's response shows how broken things were.
I heard thy voice, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself.
Fear and hiding, the opposite of their original state. And God's follow-up question cuts right to it. Who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree?
Another chance. Come on, confess, take responsibility.
But they don't. Instead, we get the blame game. Instantly.
Adam goes first.
Yep. Can't excuse himself, so he blames his wife. The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree.
Ouch. He blames Eve and implicitly blames God for giving her to him.
Exactly. White calls it the terrible power of sin. It twists everything, even blessings, into excuses. A complete abdication of personal responsibility.
And Eve? Does she own up? Nope. She follows Adam's lead. When God asks her, she blames the serpent.
The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat.
And in blaming the serpent, she's also kind of blaming God, right? For letting the serpent be there in the first place.
Wow, passing the buck all the way up.
It's this spirit of self-justification, White notes, that originated in the father of lies. It started with Satan, Adam and Eve picked it up instantly, and it's been part of fallen human nature ever since.
Blaming everyone, everything, except ourselves.
Right. Even turning God's blessings into reasons to murmur against him. It's a core consequence of disobedience. It destroys accountability.
And were they hoping God would just let it slide?
It seems they tried to comfort themselves that way.
Yeah.
Maybe God would overlook this one sin. Maybe he wouldn't enforce the promised punishment.
Self-deception kicking in immediately, minimizing their sin, hoping for an easy out.
A very human tendency, isn't it? To hope consequences won't apply to us.
So the immediate fallout was guilt, fear, blame, but the consequences didn't stop there, did they? They rippled outwards.
Oh, far beyond that moment. They affected everything. God's judgment was swift, and it reshaped their reality and ours. First, the serpent itself was cursed.
Degraded for being Satan's tool.
Then, remarkably, before judging humanity, God speaks directly to the devil. Not just with judgment, but with a promise.
This is the first hint of the gospel.
Exactly, the proto-evangelium. Genesis 3.15. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
Wow. Right there, amidst the curses, a promise of ultimate victory over Satan, even though the victor would suffer.
It's incredible. A glimmer of hope before the judgment on Adam and Eve even falls. It sets the trajectory for all of redemption history.
Okay, then the consequences for Eve.
Increased pain in childbirth, yes, but also altered relational dynamics. Her desire would be for her husband, and he would rule over her.
This wasn't God's original plan for equality, was it?
No, the sources are clear on that. This hierarchy, this struggle for dominance or submission, it's a result of sin. God's ideal was partnership, mutual respect.
But this verse has been misused, hasn't it, to justify oppression?
Massively. The sources critique that misuse, saying men should act based on God's ideal principles, not use the fallen state as an excuse for domination.
That's a crucial distinction.
And White offers a fascinating insight into Eve's initial motive. She fell partly because she was trying to rise higher than her designated position, seeking something God hadn't given her.
And that attitude, White warns, still causes problems.
Leads to the ongoing breakdown of homes, she says, when partners try to grab roles or authority God hasn't assigned, sacrificing true dignity in the process.
Leaving undone the work heaven actually appointed them.
And for Adam?
For Adam, the ground itself is cursed. He'll now eat through great toil and sweat. No more easy provision from the garden. It's hardship, struggle.
The earth resists him now.
Yes, and they lost their dominion over nature, too. God never intended them to know evil experientially.
But they chose it, and so they lost that original harmony. Now, even the animals are in rebellion against their rule. Fear enters the animal kingdom. Nature becomes harsh, a constant reminder of what sin costs.
Thorns, thistles, predators.
All reflections of a broken world, reminding humanity of the consequence of slighting God's law.
Okay, but the question people always ask, it was just eating a piece of fruit. Why such massive, world-altering consequences for what seems like a small mistake?
That's the common reaction, isn't it? But the sources, especially White, flip that completely. She argues it was precisely the minimal intensity of the test that made the sin so great.
How so? The easier the test, the worse the failure.
Exactly. If it had been some huge, impossible task, maybe they could have excused themselves. It was too hard. God asks too much.
Right.
But it was so simple. Just trust me on this one thing. Their failure on such a minor point showed a profound lack of trust and loyalty. It revealed they couldn't be trusted with more.
So God had to make the consequence clear.
He had to stamp his punishment to prevent ongoing rebellion, to show that sin, any sin in any degree, is offensive to him. It established the absolute holiness of God's law.
That makes sense. The smallness of the test highlighted the magnitude of the disobedience.
Precisely. And those consequences, they weren't just for Adam and Eve. They echo down to us.
White asks that chilling question. Who can know in the moment of temptation the terrible consequences that will result from one wrong step?
It's a universal truth. Breaking God's commandments today, the sources say, is just as consequential as it was for Adam. Romans 6.23, the wages of sin is death, is a direct echo of Eden.
It wasn't just an arbitrary punishment then, but the natural outcome of choosing separation from the source of life.
That seems to be the implication. And their very nature changed. It became weakened and depraved by their transgression.
They were less able to resist temptation now.
Yes, in their innocence they had yielded. Now, in a state of conscious guilt, they would have less power to maintain their integrity. Their internal moral compass was damaged.
So they had to leave the garden's perfection.
Into the miasma of a sin-marred earth. And everything around them became a reminder. When they saw decaying plants, they were reminded of their disobedience. Every sign of death and decay spoke of their choice.
It's a bleak picture. Judgment, curses, separation, death. But you mentioned grace earlier. Where do we see that amidst all this failure?
It's astonishing, really, how quickly grace appears. Even in the judgments, one of the first acts of grace was God preventing them from accessing the tree of life.
Preventing them, how is that grace?
Because if they had eaten from it in their sinful state, they would have become immortal sinners, trapped in rebellion and misery forever.
Which is what Satan wanted.
Exactly. An eternal race reflecting his own fallenness. So God placing angels to guard the tree wasn't punishment. It was profound mercy. It prevented eternal suffering and kept open the possibility of redemption. It stopped sin from becoming permanent.
Wow, okay. That reframes the guarding angels completely. What else?
Even the hardship Adam faced, the toil and sweat. The sources say it had a redemptive purpose.
Hardship as redemption. How?
Those harsh conditions and care were a means of helping man to recover from the ruin and degradation of sin. The struggle fostered humility, dependence on God, maybe channeled energy away from worse things. It was like a difficult therapy.
Discipline, maybe.
A difficult, necessary discipline. And even the warning of death itself, while terrifying, was a form of grace.
Oh, so.
Knowing that immortality was lost, that death was certain, it underscored the seriousness of sin. It taught them the consequence of choosing separation from life. It pointed toward their need for something beyond this broken existence. Death became, in a way, a merciful end to a life of sin, opening the door for future hope.
Okay, I see that. And wasn't there a very immediate, tangible act of care right after they sinned?
Yes. Despite their fear, their hiding, their blaming, they tried covering themselves with fig leaves, right? Totally inadequate.
Pathetic, really.
But then God in his love, however, provided clothing of skin. He covered their shame himself.
Animal skins. Meaning something had to die.
Precisely. An innocent life sacrificed to cover their guilt. It's a powerful, tangible act of grace, and many see it as the very first foreshadowing of the ultimate sacrifice needed for atonement. God providing the covering they couldn't provide for themselves.
So even in the immediate aftermath, God is already providing, already pointing towards redemption.
Absolutely. And the story doesn't just end with Eden lost. For a while, it remained on earth, a visible reminder. Adam and his family could see it, worship near it, remembering what was lost, but perhaps also holding on to hope.
But eventually God removed it.
Before the flood, yes, when sin became too pervasive. But the promise of its restoration remains. But one day, it will be replaced. That's the hope running through Scripture.
Revelation 21, a new heaven and a new earth.
Exactly. The ultimate restoration. And the sources end with this incredible vision. Then they that have kept God's commandments shall breathe in immortal vigor beneath the tree of life.
Back to the tree of life.
And through unending ages, the inhabitants of sinless worlds shall behold, in that garden of delight, a sample of the perfect work of God's creation, untouched by the curse of sin.
A glimpse of what could have been and what will be.
A sample of what the whole earth would have become had man but fulfilled the Creator's glorious plan. It's not just going back to Eden, it's a new, perfected creation, the ultimate triumph of grace.
So that brings our deep dive to a close. We've walked through Eden's perfection, the devastating fall, the ripple effects of disobedience.
The stark reality of personal accountability.
And yet, woven through it all, this undeniable, persistent thread of God's grace, even in the face of absolute failure.
It really does illuminate our own lives, doesn't it? Our own struggles with temptation, with taking responsibility, those moments where grace just breaks through unexpectedly.
Yeah, it's a timeless story because it's our story in many ways. The human condition, the divine response.
It shows our choices matter immensely, but also that we're never truly beyond the reach of that divine love.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something for you, our listeners, to chew on. If sin, even the smallest degree, is offensive to him, as the sources state,
if that one act in Eden carried such weight,
then what does that reveal about the scale, the sheer immensity, the unwavering nature of the grace God extends, not just back then, but throughout history, right into our messy lives today?
The magnitude of the offense highlights the even greater magnitude of the grace.
Exactly. Something profound to consider. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.